My name is Sarah Chen, and I'm a travel journalist. I've been to hundreds of airports across 6 continents, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened at Blackwood International Airport on December 15, 2023. It started as a routine layover. My flight from Singapore to New York had a 6-hour stop at this remote airport I'd never heard of before. The booking agent apologized profusely when I purchased the ticket, explaining that due to unexpected route changes, this was the only available option. The price was suspiciously cheap, but I didn't think much of it at the time. I should have. When my plane touched down at 11:47 p.m., I noticed something immediately wrong. The airport looked modern from the outside, all glass and steel gleaming under harsh floodlights, but there was an unsettling emptiness to it. No other planes sat on the tarmac. No ground crew rushed about, just our single aircraft, alone in an ocean of concrete. As I walked through the jet bridge, a wave of cold air hit me that had nothing to do with air conditioning. It was the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, that makes your breath visible even though it shouldn't. The other passengers, about 30 of us, shuffled forward in silence. Nobody spoke. Nobody made eye contact. The terminal was vast and modern but completely deserted. Our footsteps echoed off polished marble floors. The departure boards flickered with corrupted text, displaying flight numbers that made no sense, destinations that didn't exist. Flight 2847 to nowhere. Flight 0000 to the between. Flight 6662 home. I pulled out my phone to check the time. 11:52 p.m. No signal. Not even emergency calls available. I tried to access the airport's Wi-Fi, but the only network available was named Dunt_Connect. Against my better judgment, I tried anyway. It asked for a password. I closed my phone. The other passengers had already scattered, some heading to the few open shops, others slumping into seats at various gates. I decided to explore, to find someone, anyone who worked here. Surely there had to be staff somewhere. I walked past closed storefronts, their windows dark and covered with sheets. Inside one shop I could see mannequins positioned behind the glass. But as I walked by, I could swear their heads turned to follow me. I stopped and looked directly at them. They were facing forward. I must have imagined it. The information desk was abandoned, but a computer screen glowed in the darkness behind the counter. I leaned over and saw a chat program open. The last message, timestamped 3 years ago, simply read, "They're coming through the walls now. Don't let them see you watching." My heart began to race. I backed away from the desk and noticed for the first time that there were no exit signs visible. No doors marked emergency exit. No fire escape plans on the walls. It was as if the airport was designed to keep people in, not let them out. Asterisk, I found a small cafe that appeared to be open. Lights on, coffee machines humming, but no barista. The cash register was open, money still inside. A half-eaten sandwich sat on the counter, as if someone had been interrupted mid. The sandwich wasn't moldy or stale. It looked fresh. "Hello," I called out. My voice sounded strange, muffled, as if the air itself was absorbing the sound. A man appeared from the back room. He was wearing an airport staff uniform, but something about him was off. His movements were too smooth, too fluid. His smile was too wide. His eyes didn't blink. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice pleasant but hollow, like a recording. "I'm looking for information about my connecting flight," I said. "To New York. It's supposed to leave in about 5 hours. His smile never wavered. "All flights are on time. All flights are delayed. All flights have been cancelled. All flights are eternal." "I don't understand," I said, taking a step back. "Of course you don't," he said, his head tilting at an unnatural angle. "You've only just arrived. You haven't learned the rules yet." "What rules?" But he was gone. Not walked away, not ducked into the back room. Just gone. Vanished. Where he had stood, there was now only a dark stain on the floor, shaped vaguely like a human shadow. I ran. I don't know why I ran instead of walking, but every instinct in my body screamed at me to move. I sprinted through the terminal, past gates and shops and restaurants, all empty, all lit by the same harsh fluorescent lights that somehow created more shadows than they eliminated. I found other passengers from my flight gathered near gate 47. They looked as confused and frightened as I felt. An older man in a business suit was arguing with a young couple, insisting that we should find a way out. A woman with 3 children huddled together on airport chairs, whispering what sounded like prayers. "Has anyone seen any actual staff?" I asked the group. They all shook their heads, except for one man sitting apart from the others. He was thin, gaunt even, with dark circles under his eyes. He looked up at me and said, "You mean besides the ones who aren't real?" "What do you mean?" I asked. He laughed, a sound without humor. "I've been here for 3 days. At least I think it's been 3 days. Time doesn't work right here. The staff, they come and go, but they're not human. They're echoes, imprints, ghosts of an airport that should never have been built." "That's insane," the businessman said. "This is just a poorly managed airport. We need to find the main office and demand answers." "Good luck with that," the thin man said. "The last person who went looking for the main office never came back." Well, that's not entirely true. Parts of him came back, but not in the order he left in. The woman with the children gasped and covered their ears. Don't say such things. There are children here. I checked my phone again. 12:03 a.m. But my watch said 11:58 p.m. I looked up at the terminal clock. It read 3:47 a.m. None of the times matched. Anyone else notice the time? I asked. They all checked their devices. Everyone had a different time. The businessman's watch was running backwards. One of the children's tablets showed a date from 1987. This is some kind of electromagnetic interference. The businessman insisted. A solar flare or something. Our electronics are malfunctioning. But the thin man just shook his head. It's not your electronics that are broken. It's the airport itself. This place exists outside of normal time, outside of normal space. Really, it's a way station between worlds, and we're stuck here until it decides to let us go. How do you know all this? I demanded. Because I've died here twice already, he said calmly, and I keep waking up back on my plane just before it lands. This is my third loop, maybe my fourth. I'm starting to lose count. Asterisk, we didn't believe him, of course. The businessman, whose name was Robert, insisted we needed to stay rational. He organized us into groups to search for exit doors, working phones, or anyone who could help us. I was paired with a quiet woman named Elena who claimed to be a software engineer. As we walked, Elena whispered to me, I've been monitoring the Wi-Fi signals. There are hundreds of networks here, all with strange names. The waiting room, never leave. Flight 404 not found, and the strongest signal keeps moving, like it's following us. We found a directory of the airport. One of those illuminated maps with the "You are here" marker, except the map showed impossible architecture, gates that overlapped with each other, corridors that looped back on themselves in ways that defied physics, entire sections labeled only with symbols I didn't recognize. Look at this, Elena said, pointing to the legend at the bottom of the map. There are rules printed here, really small. Can you read them? Asterisk, I leaned in close. In tiny text, barely visible, were printed what appeared to be instructions. Blackwood International Airport regulations for stranded passengers. Do not acknowledge the staff directly. They are echoes and will try to trap you in conversation loops. All clocks show different times because you are existing in multiple moments simultaneously. Trust your body, not your devices. The airport feeds on confusion and fear. Remain calm. Gates 13, 31, and 66 do not exist. If you find yourself at any of these gates, close your eyes and count to 10. When you open them, walk directly backward. The bathrooms on level 3 are safe. The bathrooms on level 2 are not bathrooms. If you hear your flight being called, do not proceed to the gate. It is not your flight. It is never your flight. Passengers who have been here longer than 72 hours begin to become part of the airport. Avoid them. The only way out is through the door that doesn't open. You will know it when you find it. Do not sleep. The airport takes dreamers. Good luck. You're going to need it. Elena and I stared at each other. This has to be someone's idea of a joke, she said, but her voice shook. A loudspeaker crackled to life above us. A pleasant female voice announced, Attention passengers. Flight 2847 to nowhere is now boarding at gate 13. This is the final boarding call for flight 2847 to nowhere. All passengers please proceed to gate 13 immediately. Asterisk, I felt a strong compulsion to obey, to head toward gate 13. My feet actually started moving in that direction before Elena grabbed my arm. Rule 6, she hissed. Don't go to your gate if called. I snapped out of it, my heart pounding. What is this place? We returned to the main group at gate 47. 2 people were missing. The young couple who had been arguing with Robert were gone. The thin man, whose name we learned was David, just nodded knowingly. They probably heard their names, he said. The airport calls to you, uses your own thoughts against you, makes you think you see familiar faces in the crowds that aren't there, makes you hear voices of people you love. As if on cue, I heard my mother's voice calling my name. Sarah, Sarah, honey, I'm over here. I came to pick you up. I spun around. There, at the far end of the terminal, I could see my mother waving at me. But my mother lived in California, and she'd been dead for 2 years. Don't, Elena said, gripping my arm tighter. It's not real. The figure that looked like my mother smiled, and even from a distance, I could see that the smile was wrong. Too many teeth. Teeth that were too sharp. I looked away. And when I looked back, she was gone. Asterisk, hours passed. Or maybe minutes, or maybe days. Time had lost all meaning. Our group had shrunk from 30 to 15. Some had wandered off despite warnings. Others had simply vanished when no one was looking. One man had insisted on trying to sleep, claiming he needed rest. The moment his eyes closed, his body began to sink into the airport chair as if it were made of quicksand. We tried to pull him out, but it was too late. The chair absorbed him completely, leaving only his luggage behind. Robert refused to accept any of it. There's a rational explanation, he kept saying, even as he watched the impossible happen again and again. Mass hallucination, gas leak, something in the air. David laughed bitterly. Still clinging to your rational world. I was like you once. On my first loop, you'll learn. We decided to search for the door mentioned in the rules. The door that doesn't open. It was our only lead, our only hope. We split into smaller groups. agreeing to meet back at gate 47 in 1 hour, though none of us trusted that an hour would actually be an hour. I went with Elena and David. The thin man had been here longest and knew the patterns, the dangers. He led us through the terminal with caution, teaching us the signs of danger. See how the lights flicker there? He pointed. That means the space is unstable. Reality is thin. To walk through that and you might end up in a different part of the airport, or a different time, or somewhere that's not the airport at all. What's the worst thing you've seen here? Elena asked him. David was quiet for a long moment. On my second loop I found the source, or one of the sources. There's a section of this airport, deep in the maintenance tunnels, where the walls are breathing. Actually breathing, like lungs. And there are things growing there, things that used to be people, passengers who stayed too long, who let the airport absorb them. They're part of the structure now, aware but unable to move, unable to speak. They can only watch as others suffer the same fate. Why are you telling us this? I asked. Because you need to understand what we're up against. This isn't a haunted building, this is a living thing. A predator. It lures in travelers and feeds on them, slowly, over days or weeks or months. And the worst part, on the outside, no time passes at all. To the rest of the world we're just delayed passengers. No one will ever come looking for us. We passed through a section of the terminal that seemed older. The architecture shifting from modern to mid-century, then even further back. The signs were in different languages. Some I recognized, others that looked like no language ever spoken by humans. We're moving through time, Elena whispered, through the airport's history, or its future, or both. We found ourselves in front of a door. It was unremarkable, just a plain wooden door with no markings, no signs, no handle. It stood alone in the middle of a corridor, not attached to any wall, freestanding and impossible. This is it, David said. The door that doesn't open. I walked around it. It looked the same from both sides. Solid wood, no visible way to open it. I pressed my hand against it. It was warm, almost alive, pulsing with a rhythm like a heartbeat. The rules said it's the only way out, Elena said. But how do we open it? David shook his head. I've tried everything. Pushing, pulling, kicking, burning. I've said every prayer I know. Tried every superstition. It won't open. Maybe we're thinking about this wrong, I said. The rules said the door that doesn't open, not the door you can't open. What if it's a door that literally never opens? What if we have to go through it without opening it? That's insane, Elena said. How do you go through a door without opening it? I thought about everything that had happened. The impossible architecture, the fluid time, the way reality itself seemed negotiable in this place. This airport exists outside normal rules, I said. Maybe we have to stop thinking in terms of normal rules. Maybe we don't open the door. Maybe we convince ourselves we're already on the other side. Asterisk, it sounded crazy, but what other choice did we have? David had been here through multiple loops and hadn't found another way. Elena was skeptical but willing to try anything. We stood in front of the door, the three of us holding hands. I closed my eyes and tried to imagine being on the other side. Tried to feel it as reality. Tried to believe it with every fiber of my being. Nothing happened. It's not working, Elena said. Wait, David whispered. Something's changing. I opened my eyes. The door looked the same, but the space around it was shifting. The walls were moving, flowing like liquid. The floor beneath our feet became transparent, and I could see infinite depths below, corridors and gates and terminals stretching down forever. Don't let go, I said. Gripping their hands tighter, we stepped forward, not toward the door but through the space where the door existed, as if we were stepping through a waterfall or a curtain. There was resistance, like pushing through something thick and heavy, but we kept moving. For a moment I was everywhere and nowhere. I could see all of Blackwood International Airport at once, every gate, every corridor, every dark corner. I could see the passengers we'd lost, trapped in walls, their faces frozen in eternal screams. I could see the things that pretended to be staff, hollow vessels of darkness wearing human skin. I could see the heart of the airport, deep below, a writhing mass of architecture and flesh and pure hunger. And then we were through. We stumbled onto a jet bridge, a real jet bridge, attached to a real plane. Flight attendants looked at us in confusion as we collapsed onto the floor, gasping. Are you three all right? One of them asked. You're not on the passenger manifest, but the gate agent said there might be some connecting passengers. I looked at Elena and David. We were back. We'd escaped. Where is this flight going? I asked. New York JFK, the attendant replied. We board in 10 minutes. New York, my original destination. We'd made it. Asterisk, the flight was normal. Completely, blessedly normal. We took off on time. The engines sounded right. The other passengers chatted and read and slept without being absorbed by their seats. When we landed at JFK 7 hours later, I could have cried with relief, Elena, David, and I exchanged contact information, though we didn't talk much during the flight. What could we say? Who would believe us? At JFK, we went through customs. When I handed over my passport, the agent frowned. Ma'am, according to our system, you never left Singapore. There's no record of your departure. That's impossible, I said. I just came from there. Through Blackwood International Airport, the agent's expression changed. She went pale and called over her supervisor. The supervisor looked at my passport, typed something into his computer, and his face went grave. "Come with me, please," he said. They took me to a private room. Along with Alina and David, a woman in a dark suit was waiting for us. No identification visible. "Blackwood International Airport," she said, not as a question but as a statement. "You were there. You got out. You know about it." Alina asked. The woman nodded. "We've known about it for 30 years. It appears on flight paths occasionally, usually through booking errors or system glitches. Most people who land there never leave. The few who do, well, you're the first survivors we've had in 5 years." "What is it?" I demanded. "What is that place?" "We don't entirely know," she admitted. "The best theory is that it's a kind of dimensional anomaly, a place where reality is thin. It feeds on travelers, on the energy of people in transition, people who are between places. Some researchers think it's always been there, that it's an ancient thing that modern architecture somehow gave form to. Others think we created it, that our collective anxiety about travel and airports and being stuck somehow manifested into reality." "Why don't you shut it down?" David asked. "Warn people." "How?" The woman replied. "It appears randomly. It's not on any map. By the time we know someone's been routed there, it's too late. And who would believe us if we went public? We'd sound insane." She pulled out a form. "I need you 3 to sign this. It's a non-disclosure agreement. You can't talk about Blackwood to anyone. No social media posts, no news interviews, no telling friends or family." "And if we refuse?" I asked. Her expression was sympathetic but firm. "Then we'll have to conclude that your ordeal has left you mentally unstable. Mandatory psychiatric hold. It would be unfortunate, but necessary." We signed. Epilogue. 3 months later, I tried to go back to normal life. I tried to forget, but I couldn't. Every airport I visit now, I see signs, small things that remind me of Blackwood. A flickering light here, a closed storefront with mannequins that seem to watch me there, gates that shouldn't exist according to the layout. I've done research, quietly, carefully. There are others like us, survivors who got out. We find each other online, in obscure forums, never using real names. We share our experiences. We warn each other about the signs because Blackwood International Airport is still out there, still appearing on flight paths, still taking passengers. Alina sends me messages sometimes. She's developed anxiety about flying now. She only travels by train or car. David has disappeared. His phone is disconnected. His social media accounts deleted. I don't know if he's dead or if he's just trying to forget. As for me, I keep flying. Someone has to. Someone has to watch for the signs, to warn others when possible. Someone has to remember the people we lost, the passengers who are still there, trapped in walls and floors and ceilings, aware but unable to scream. Late at night, when I'm alone in some anonymous hotel room between assignments, I sometimes wonder if I really escaped. Maybe I'm still there, in Blackwood, and this is just the dream the airport is letting me have before it fully absorbs me. Maybe we're all still there and we've just convinced ourselves we got out. I check my phone. The time matches my watch. The date is correct, but I've learned not to trust such things. Somewhere out there, right now, a plane is landing at Blackwood International Airport. Passengers are disembarking, confused about why the terminal is empty, why time doesn't work right, why they can hear their loved ones calling to them from the shadows, and they're learning, as I learned, that some layovers last forever. Last week, I received a package in the mail, no return address. Inside was a single object, a boarding pass for flight 2847 to nowhere, departing from gate 13 at Blackwood International Airport. The date on the boarding pass is tomorrow. The passenger name reads Sarah Chen. I should be terrified. I should burn the boarding pass and try to forget about it. But instead, I'm packing my bag. I'm getting ready to travel because I've realized something. The reason David disappeared, the reason I keep flying despite everything, the reason we survivors can never truly escape. Blackwood International Airport doesn't just trap you in space and time. It marks you, changes you, makes you part of itself, even after you leave. And it always calls its children home. The thin man on my first night there, the one who had been through multiple loops, who had died and woken up and died again. I just realized something about him, something I should have noticed earlier. His uniform was pristine. His movements were too smooth, too fluid. His eyes didn't blink. David wasn't a survivor on his 3rd or 4th loop. David was one of the echoes, and if he was, what does that make me? What does that make Alina? My flight leaves in 12 hours. I've already checked in. The boarding pass in my hand is for a direct flight to Los Angeles. But I know better now. I know that sometimes the airport decides where you're really going. I'll board the plane tomorrow. I'll take my seat. I'll fasten my seatbelt and turn off my electronic devices and listen to the safety briefing. And when we land, I'll walk off the plane and through the jet bridge and into ... I guess I'll find out. The only thing I know for certain is this. If you're reading this, if you're about to travel, check your itinerary carefully. Look for airports you've never heard of. Question any route that seems too cheap, too convenient, Too good to be true, because Blackwood International Airport is always hungry, and it's always accepting new arrivals. The fluorescent lights are flickering in my hotel room now. My watch and my phone are showing different times, and from somewhere far away, I can hear the echo of a PA announcement. Attention passengers, Flight 2847 to nowhere is now boarding. This is the final boarding call. All passengers please proceed to the gate. This is your final boarding call. I stand up. I gather my things. It's time to go home, after all. Some airports you can never really leave. You just become part of the permanent collection. See you there. Travelers. See you in the terminal that never closes. At the gate that never stops boarding. On the flight that never quite lands where it's supposed to. See you at Blackwood International Airport. Where every layover lasts forever and every passenger eventually becomes part of the staff. The end. Or is it?